The storm does not hate you. It does not hold a grudge. It does not keep a score. It only moves. Rain needles your face, the deck tilts, and the mast screams. You look up, begging the sky to be fair, and the sea answers with another wave. The captain who lives is not the one who pleads, he's the one who reads. He sees wind as information, current as leverage, and every rope as a decision. He trims, he turns, he times. He does not ask the weather to be kind. He makes the ship obey. You are that captain, or you are cargo. Power is weather indifferent, vast, and blind. If you insist the world treat you fairly, you will drown with your principles in your mouth. If you study the wind, you'll discover something colder and more useful. Motives. People don't move because something is right. They move because something is rewarding, protective, or frightening. Gain security. Fear that is the compass. Speak to any one of those, and the wheel responds. Speak only to fairness, and you talk to the sky. Fairness is a beautiful word and a poor anchor. In quiet rooms, it sounds persuasive. In rooms where money, status, or desire are at stake, it becomes a costume for advantage. The speech about equality is often the prelude to a private carve-out, the moral flag hung over a personal harbor. Understand this and you stop resenting reality. You begin to pressure it. You stop asking, is this fair? And start asking, where is the leverage? Leverage begins with reading incentives. What do they gain by moving? What do they risk by refusing? What do they fear if they delay? Put your offer where gain is obvious, your boundary where risk is immediate, and your silence where fear grows in the dark. This is not cruelty, it is competence. The captain who tightens sail before the squall is not a tyrant. He is responsible for everyone on board. Your plea is a flare that marks your weakness. The moment you say, treat me fairly, you reveal you cannot impose terms. Predators smell this. Bureaucracies file it. Even friends unconsciously price you lower. You do not need a louder plea. You need a different posture. Define the problem first, then define the terms. Name the horizon, set the pace. Offer value without begging, and withhold access without drama. Calm is a pressure. Scarcity is a pressure. Consequence clean, not vindictive, is a pressure. Look at work. The person who frames the meeting wins the meeting. We are not debating blame. We are choosing a market. Frame set. Tempers drop because the scope is set. Look at dating. I move at mission pace. Affection is inside structure. Frame set. Tests fade because uncertainty fades. Look at friends. I don't explain boundaries. I demonstrate them once. Frame set. Explanations invite trials. Consequences close them. You are not required to become hard. You are required to become clear. Clarity removes the oxygen from manipulation. When you make people guess, they test. When you reward tests, they repeat them. When you define terms and keep them, people adjust. Some will leave. That is peace arriving in the shape of subtraction. Stop judging the weather. Start steering the ship. Count incentives, not intentions. Notice optics. Who is watching? Who needs a story to save face? Who must be seen winning? Adjust timing like a sailor watching swell and gust move on the beat of opportunity, and wait when the sea is between breaths. If a door does not open, change the hinge, not your dignity. This is the painful truth. Power doesn't care about fairness. It cares about position, posture, and punishment, the 3 Ps that keep a ship afloat. Position gives you options. Posture sets the room's temperature. Punishment, used rarely and cleanly, teaches memory. When those are in order, you won't need to beg. People will call your terms reasonable because you made them costly to ignore. Stop asking. Start calculating. Men in general judge more by the eyes than by the hands. for everyone can see but few can feel. You live inside a theater of reassurances, velvet curtain, gentle lights, smiling ushers. But the play is commerce, and the script is power. When you believe the decor, you negotiate from the audience instead of the stage. Step behind the curtain, touch the ropes, count the seats. Appearances are weapons, so are promises. Learn who profits when you relax, and you stop relaxing for free. The soft empire of slogans begins with 4 friendly words. We're a family here. You hear it in onboarding videos, all-hands calls, cupcake Fridays, and Slack emojis. Families absorb shocks, families forgive. So when deadlines slip or budgets shrink, you're pressed for one more push because we're all in this together. The trick is rank. The phrase downgrades you from contractor to child. Children don't set terms, they accept bedtime. Everyone is valued. Sounds plush, but value in a firm is measured in outcomes and risk. Anything else is theater. Slogans are anesthesia. They lower your defenses so you donate leverage time after hours. Silence when a policy bites. A smile while your scope quietly widens. Machiavelli would call it governance by optics. Give them a banner to hug, and they'll miss the hand on the scales. Strip the decor in your own conduct. Trade vague helpfulness for explicit contracts. Define what you deliver and what you will not do. Swap fuzzy deadlines for calendar dates. Swap invisible chores for named outcomes. Reserve extra effort for moments you can price. Calm, surgical, unhurried. You are teaching people how to read you, not as a tireless cousin, but as an adult who sets terms and enforces them. Say, I'm glad to do X by Friday. Y is a separate scope, and hold the line. Say, happy to help once the dependency is cleared, and go back to work. The first time you refuse to take one for the team, without a trade, the room learns your price and stops asking for donations. Now to love without leverage. You are told love should be unconditional, limitless, pure, but even saints asked for faithfulness, and a dog expects you to come home. In romance and friendship, attention is never charity. It is exchange. The language of unconditional often hides the real conditions. Status, reliability, scarcity. A partner who says, I want you as you are, may be counting on you to remain available, predictable, and low demand. A friend who insists, we don't keep score in silence, and the tally appears the first time you stop subsidizing them. Loyalty is not a feeling that floats. It rests on predictable value or the fear of losing it. Remove both, and loyalty evaporates like perfume in a storm. Define your value in terms that hold under pressure: competence, composure, and controlled distance. Competence solves recurring problems others avoid. Composure lowers the emotional cost of being near you. Controlled distance preserves scarcity, so your presence never turns into wallpaper. Your partner will not say, your scarcity increases perceived value. They will say, I miss you when you work your mission, and schedule themselves to earn your time. You do not need theatrics to test this. Shorten your response windows, stop over-explaining, and watch behavior instead of promises. Those who want you from strength lean in. Those who wanted you for convenience protest your change. You did change. You moved from charity to exchange. Enter the optics ledger. Every person runs a quiet accounting. Risk on one side, reward on the other, optics in the margin. If your presence lowers their cost or raises their advantage, you are kept. If not, you are replaced. This is not cynicism. It is time management and reputational gravity. People choose what works and what looks good to the audience that matters to them. Your task is to become the choice that works and looks good. Translate it. In a startup, The engineer who ships on time lowers investor anxiety and becomes a signal of seriousness. The ledger prints keep. The executive who dazzles on stage but breeds chaos backstage raises risk. The ledger prints replace after the next round. In a friend group, the planner who books venues and pays deposits on time raises convenience. Keep. The chronic canceller raises friction. Mute. In dating, the person whose boundaries create clean weekends and focused weekdays raises perceived value. Keep. On social media, the account that posts calm facts with the next step raises credibility. Follow. The one that inflames without solutions raises reputational risk. Unfollow. You do not control their ledger. You control your inputs. Raise the reward side. Standards. Execution. Calm. Lower the risk side. Drama. Freebies without purpose. Availability that erases mystique. Improve. Optics. Arrive prepared. Speak briefly. Define outcomes. Exit on time. People can feel precision. It converts to safety in their own calculations. If you must choose between being liked and being useful, choose useful. Usefulness matures into respect, and respect outlives fashion. This is how appearances and promises become instruments instead of traps. An appearance that signals reliability earns you rooms you do not have to beg for. A promise you never enforce invites your humiliation. Keep fewer promises and enforce all. Dress like your calendar is expensive. Speak like your word is a contract. When you say no, make it flat and quick. When you say yes, deliver under budget. The world notices patterns. It updates your rating quietly, then loudly. Return to the soft empire and pull down the banners. When someone offers comfort with no cost, ask where the cost is buried. When someone offers love with no terms, watch them during scarcity. When someone promises equality in a life hierarchy, ask who signs the checks. You are not obligated to treat slogans as laws. You are obligated to understand the room and bargain like an adult. Strip naivete, not kindness. Keep the warmth. Remove the blindness. Treat appearances as signals to test, not pillows to sleep on. Pair promises with consequence. Become simpler. Fewer words, sharper edges, cleaner exchanges. Some will call it cold. It is clarity. See the mask. Read the ledger. Choose the terms. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. You think you're asking for fairness, but what you're really asking for is rescue from the script written when you were too young to defend yourself. Every plea for justice that trembles beneath your words is a child's echo, disguised in adult grammar. It whispers, "If I explain well enough, they'll see I'm good." But power doesn't hear explanations, it reads patterns. And when you reach for fairness, the world sees your reach, not your worth. You learned early that love came after correction, that approval was the gate to belonging. So you negotiated with silence, with smiles, with small acts of self-erasure. You became fluent in apology, that reflex to justify, to soften, to ask for a hearing. It still drives your adult diplomacy, but fairness-seeking is a luxury of the strong. For the unsovereign, it's bait. Predators don't need to overpower you. They just need to find your handles. A handle is any part of you that needs to be seen as good. They test for it in conversation. The guilt that flares when you're misunderstood. The panic when someone withdraws warmth. They make you explain yourself, and while you talk, they measure your hunger. Every apology widens their grip. Every attempt to clarify gives them more to work with. You think you're restoring balance. They're mapping your weak spots. That's the paradox. The more unfair you try to be, the more predictable you become. You broadcast your triggers in the name of transparency. You hand over the rule book of your mind. and anyone watching carefully can weaponize your virtue against you. This is why Jung warned that the unintegrated wound becomes a tyrant. It governs your behavior from below. The man who cannot hold tension within himself becomes hostage to anyone who can. The shadow's revelation is brutal because it names the truth. You are not being exploited. You are cooperating. Each time you chase fairness, you step out of sovereignty. You abandon your seat to plead before a smaller court. This is how the inner child replays the same old trial, hoping for a new verdict. But no verdict heals. Only rulership does. To rule yourself, you must stop performing innocence. Your pain doesn't need witnesses, it needs policies. Fairness was the language of your wound. Governance is the language of your recovery. You begin by translating emotion into protocol. When you feel urgency, install response windows. When guilt bites, move into non-reactivity. When someone tests your boundary twice, escalate to consequence, not conversation. These are not therapy tools, they are statecraft. Because the psyche is not a democracy, it's a kingdom, and you are its sovereign. You don't owe explanations to the ghosts that built you. You owe order to the man you're becoming. You cannot edit your past, but you can legislate your future. And that begins when you stop negotiating for fairness and start governing for peace. Silence is not surrender, it's command. Power bleeds out of you the moment your face announces injury. You think fairness will hold the room still, but courts are weather, not history. They shift with the gust of the moment. The second you hinge identity to fair treatment, you hand the keys of your castle to any passerby with a pebble to throw. One slight, and your sense of self detonates because your moat is hope. The optics of panic begin small. A change in breath, a swallowed word that doesn't go down. The air cools. You look to a friend for rescue, and the friend looks down at a phone. Your jaw tightens, your pupils widen, and your pain writes headlines across your face. Strategists read faces the way hunters read tracks. Widened eyes mean open ground. Trembling lips mean the gate is unbarred. In that moment, few hear your argument. They watch the signal. The guard is rattled, the door ajar. Picture the office. A meeting turns after a mild critique. You shift in your chair, voice racing, hands explaining what didn't need explanation. The colleague who envies your role doesn't interrupt. He sips water and lets you broadcast weakness for him. Across the table, a silent rival notes the sheen on your forehead and drafts an email in the mind. Given recent concerns, we should reconsider ownership. The cost of fragility is not theatrical embarrassment, it is permission. Panic licenses other people's ambitions. Social media makes it worse. A single snide comment hooks your pride. You reply hot. Screenshots multiply. The original insult fades. Your reaction becomes the story. Strangers who never met you now feel they have met your nerve endings. They know how to touch them. Rooms, digital or physical, recalculate the odds. They move accordingly. This is the coup from within. First, the slight, light, almost trivial, the offhand tease, the delayed text, the decision taken without you. Then the reactive outburst, a sharp message, an overlong defense, an accusation framed as a plea. Next, the loss of frame. You abandon strategy to prove a feeling. You step from the throne to argue in the courtyard. Finally, the narrative capture. Because you left the throne, someone else sits in it. Their story becomes official history. Now your competitors brief against you while you defend a feeling. Consider dating dynamics. A test lands. She jokes about another man. She ignores your call for a day. If your identity depends on her steady warmth, you take the bait. You confront fast. You demand fairness. You speak of respect while abandoning your own law. You do not chase what withdraws. In that instant, the roles invert. She becomes the judge of your temper. You become the petitioner. You did not lose the argument, you lost jurisdiction. The throne moved. In power plays, narrative is the crown. Your outburst gives others the pen. They clip your sentences into proof. See, volatile. The record fills with summaries of your worst minute, not your best year. People don't check the tape, they cite the memo. The inner coup is deadlier than any external enemy. It doesn't need siege equipment. It uses your guard to unlock the gate. Then come the switch costs. Markets reprice reputation the way lightning redraws a night sky. Not gradually, instantly. Allies hedge. They slow replies. Invitations arrive with vaguer language. Your strong voice is retagged as risk. The budget moves 2 doors down. Adversaries, seeing the discount, test. They float proposals that edge your influence out by degrees, temporary of course, just while the dust settles. Watch how temporary calcifies into structure. Switch costs hit personal life too. Friends who loved your certainty now avoid your volatility. They were never paid to absorb your storms. You sense the drift and chase harder, which confirms the market's new price. In the attention economy, panic is a flashing sale tag on your dignity. Your value feels lower because you advertised that you would take any offer to end discomfort. Buyers appear. Mastery of expression and timing is not fakery. It is architecture. Build a moat you can fill on command. Keep the temperature of your face low, even when your heart burns. Let insult pass without purchase while you quietly decide, respond, reposition, or remove. First rule, containment, do nothing that assigns your enemy a larger stage. Second, sequence, secure the throne first, then speak. If you must answer, wait until you can place your words where they alter outcomes. Practice this in small arenas. When a waiter forgets your order, keep your voice level and your sentences short. When a manager misreads your contribution, ask crisp questions that expose the process rather than your wound. Walk me through how decisions are made, not "this isn't fair." When a partner tests, let silence carry your boundary for a day. What returns is information. Act on information, not agitation. Another tactic, separate the self from the signal. Your identity is not a tender surface asking to be treated. Your identity is a set of laws you enforce without heat. The law cares about outcomes. Who holds the decision right? What leverage can you build in quiet? Which exit is dignified and costly for the other side? When you subordinate feelings to the plan, your face becomes unreadable, and unreadable faces are expensive to attack. Remember that fairness is not a defense. It is a bedtime story told to make sleep gentle. In statecraft and commerce, fairness is traded only when it benefits the trader. The adult move is symmetry. Choose responses that rebalance the board. Sometimes that means reward. Sometimes distance. Sometimes nothing at all, letting a fool speak into emptiness until the room hears the echo and judges accordingly. You do not have to be cold, you have to be calm. Calm is not the absence of feeling. It is the governance of expression. Calm keeps the moat filled while you decide whether to open the gate for trade or keep it closed for winter. In calm, you see provocations for what they are. Scouting parties. They measure your distance. You do not sprint to the fence for every rustle. You watch. You count. You move when the math says move. The opposite of emotional collapse is sovereign delay. Buy time the way. Rulers buy land quietly and in pieces. Step back from scenes that bait your pride and re-enter only when you can set the temperature. Teach the market how to price you by how slowly you respond to panic. Your silence is not absence. It is policy. From the outside it looks like mystery. From the inside it feels like a steady hand on the helm. Hold your face, hold your throne. It is much safer to be feared than loved. if one must choose. Machiavelli, you were told to chase feelings, but feelings change with the weather. Power lives in terms. You stop drowning the moment you name the exchange. What do you actually put on the table? Competence. You solve problems cleanly, without drama. Calm. You do not flood the room with panic when pressure rises. Results. You deliver what others only promise. Scarcity. You are not endlessly available. Your presence has a price. That is your offer sheet. Now name your asks with the same cold light. Access. You choose who gets your time and how. Pace. Your life moves at mission speed, not at the speed of someone's boredom. Standards. There is a floor for conduct and a ceiling for demands. Write it down like a spreadsheet. Columns replace fog. When you talk in numbers, the room sobers. This is not cynicism. This is dignity under contract. Loyalty stands when incentives align. Respect holds when loss is possible. Even devotion obeys gravity. Remove value and the fear of losing it, and the words go hollow. So you define what you give and what you require, and you keep receipts. If someone benefits from your competence, the ledger should show it. If someone gets access, there is a purpose and a boundary. This is how you stop begging for love and start negotiating alignment. You stop pleading for understanding and start presenting terms. The conversation matures, so do you. Now replace the child's word fair with the adult's word terms. Fair is fog, terms are steel. Draft terms you can enforce, without tantrums. Scope, what is included and what is excluded. Boundaries, what is allowed and what triggers distance. Timelines, when milestones hit and what happens if they do not. Consequences, the predictable cost of breaking terms. In work, write it down: deliverables, revision limits, deposits, late fees. Confirm in writing, even if it is a simple line, agreed to the above terms. In dating, speak it calmly, how you schedule, what you will tolerate, what ends access. With friends, define availability, money boundaries, and favors with caps. You do not need legalese, you need clarity. Terms are only real if they carry teeth, and the teeth do not require shouting. Teeth are boring systems that fire automatically. A late invoice triggers a fee, no anger needed. A disrespect triggers distance, no debate required. A broken promise triggers reduced access, no sermon necessary, no explosions, no essays, just switches that flip because you set them that way. People learn your structure the way they learn the shape of a room in the dark, by bumping into edges. The more predictable the edges, the less they bump. Contract thinking does not suffocate love. It gives love walls so it can stand. Think of a house. Warmth needs a frame or it leaks into winter. You do not measure affection by how often you collapse your standards. You measure it by how well both of you protect the frame that keeps affection warm. When terms are clear, resentment cannot hide. When consequences are clean, threats are unnecessary. You do not need to be loud when reality enforces for you. Shift from fantasy to forecast. Wishing is a child's weather report. Maybe the sun will come out. Forecasting checks pressure systems and packs a jacket. You do not hope people treat you well. You build structures that make it expensive to treat you poorly and rewarding to treat you well. In work, you stage payments, tie delivery to signatures, and keep ownership until completion. Suddenly, respect appears because disrespect has a cost. In dating, you keep pace with your mission, limit access to those who keep pace with you, and withdraw from those who do not. With friends, you schedule in advance, set end times, and decline the drop-in emergency that repeats every week. Your model predicts behavior, your terms shape it. Forecasting also means modeling the human animal as it is, not as you wish it to be. Machiavelli did not hate people, he measured them. People follow habits and incentives, so you model their likely moves. Remove all consequences, predict drift. Overgive, predict entitlement. Keep mystery and momentum, predict pursuit. Then you set terms that harness these currents instead of fighting them. You do not build a dam, you carve a channel. Here is a simple practice. Write 3 columns: behavior, cost, response. Behavior: cancels last minute twice. Cost: wasted evening, lost prep time. Response: next invite requires a deposit, or future invites occur only on my window. Behavior: slow replies for days but demands instant attention. Cost: broken focus rhythm. Response: communication shifts to asynchronous, 24 to 48 hour response time. Behavior: public disrespect. Cost: reputation risk. Response: immediate distance. Future access requires a clear apology and proven change. By mapping costs, you remove drama. By pre-writing responses, you remove delay. You stop negotiating while hurt and start executing what is written. You will be tempted to make exceptions because you crave the old story. Do not. Write terms you can enforce on your worst day, not your best. Make them small, boring, and automatic. A calendar invite, a payment link, a do not disturb block, a canned line. As per the terms we agreed. Your power is the ritual, not the speech. You can still be generous. You can still be warm. But generosity rides in a strong vehicle, and warmth lives inside walls. Call it what it is: alignment of interests. When your value is present and your absence is costly, love speaks clearly, loyalty stands upright, and respect does not wobble. When value is unguarded and departure has no price, the sweetest language empties out. You are not building a cage, you are shaping a corridor that leads where you say you are going. And if someone refuses the corridor, you do not plead. You open a different door. Clarity over feelings, terms over fantasies. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. You don't meet your shadow by reading about it. You meet it when you stop apologizing for wanting leverage and start building it. Machiavelli called this Virtù, capacity, nerve, and timing. Not brute strength, not cruelty for its own sake. The courage to enforce what you value, calmly, once, and cleanly. You won't become a tyrant by learning enforcement. People become tyrants when they avoid limits until resentment explodes. Virtù keeps you precise, and it begins with 3 pillars: position, posture, and punishment. Position is your fortress. In modern life, that means scarce skills, fresh information, and real options. Learn a skill that moves revenue, cuts risk, or unlocks speed closing, forecasting, negotiation, compliance, cybersecurity, automation. Know where the numbers live. Contracts, dashboards, debt schedules, unit economics. When you can do what others can't, you become hard to replace, and pressure loses its grip. Save 6 months of expenses so your no has teeth. Keep a quiet pipeline of alternative offers and side routes. Build relationships across functions and age ranges: engineers, operators, lawyers, designers, finance people, instead of collecting shallow influencer contacts. Optionality is not indecision. It is the ability to choose your battles. When position is strong, your shadow calms because it knows you can leave the room and land on your feet. Posture is what they read before you speak. Slow your pace. Use simple sentences. Strip filler. No nervous laughter. No just checking in. No auto-apologies for existing. State your standards up front and price violations early. I answer messages 9/5. Emergencies are contractual, not emotional. If you reschedule twice, we move to paid booking. These are not threats, they are traffic rules. Calm pacing says you have alternatives. Silence becomes a tool. You let offers land. You let people feel the cost of their own delays. Machiavelli would tell you that appearances announce power before power is tested. Posture is the banner you fly on ordinary days. Punishment is the peace nice people avoid and weak people botch. In Machiavelli's terms, cruelty must be well used, necessary, decisive, and rare. In your terms, punishment is proportionate consequences delivered once, cleanly, and documented. No raised voice, no sarcasm, no revenge. If a client bleeds scope, you halt, work, and send a change order. If a friend breaks a confidence, that topic closes for good. If a partner blows agreed deadlines, you remove privileges that depend on timeliness. The goal is predictability, not pain. Consequences should be understood in advance, linked to the behavior, and executed without drama. The shadow that once lashed out becomes a judge with a checklist. Frames first, facts second. Most people drown you in data because they lack a frame. They hope a story appears if they throw enough charts. You will do the opposite. Lead with the question that defines the terrain. Is this a trust problem or a timeline problem? Are we optimizing for certainty or for speed? Is this an exception or a pattern? Once the frame is set, facts have a place to sit. In negotiation, anchor with a frame. We're choosing between a discount today or reliability this quarter. Then bring the numbers that support it. Frames seize narrative ground. Facts fortify the walls you just drew. Your tone remains deliberate and unhurried because haste is an admission that you've lost the map. Fortuna luck still visits, markets swing, health dips, timing snaps shut. Virtù doesn't abolish luck, it tames the bite with buffers. Build redundancy. 2 routes to income, 2 backups for contacts, 2 weeks of operations you can run offline. Keep contingency plans and exit paths. If you cannot exit, you cannot negotiate. If you cannot pause, you cannot think. Treat time like capital. Guard deep work hours, defend sleep, and batch reactions so crises don't colonize your day. Optionality is not flakiness, it is weather gear for storms you cannot predict. Fortune favors the prepared because preparation widens the window where nerve and timing can matter. Make it real at work. You're assigned a project with shifting scope. Old you would sprint and hope speed buys safety. New you sets the frame. We can lock scope by Tuesday or lock deadline by Friday. Changes after lock trigger a delay or a fee. You put it in writing. Your posture is calm. You stop the constant pinging. When requests creep, punishment arrives once and clean. We've hit the change threshold. Here's the amendment. No anger, only enforcement. People adjust. The calendar breathes again. You delivered the triad position, skills and alternatives. Posture, quiet control. Punishment, one precise consequence. And chaos lost its appetite. Make it real in dating. You like someone who tests boundaries with late-night chaos. Old, you would soothe and over-explain. New, you defines the frame. I keep early mornings. If we talk late, we plan it. No drama calls. Posture stays warm but firm. You don't preach, you schedule. When the 1 a.m. storm hits, punishment is simple. No answer, no lecture. The next day, you reset. We keep daytime or we don't keep this. You aren't punishing a person, you're protecting conditions that keep you sane. Respect grows or the bond ends. Either outcome is clarity and clarity is mercy. Make it real with family. A relative gossips after you ask them not to. Frame, trust is the issue, not the story. Posture, fewer visits, shorter calls, warmer but tighter. Punishment, you share less. When they complain, you don't debate details. You point back to the frame. If trust improves, access expands. You are not cruel, you are consistent. People learn your rules by their costs, not your speeches. The day you stop negotiating your boundaries is the day your boundaries start working. This is how you meet the shadow, by giving it work. You don't exile your aggression, you hire it as your gatekeeper. You don't crush your pride, you assign it to carry standards without a shout. You don't erase fear, you put it in charge of contingency planning. The parts you once hid become tools you can name, the fox to spot traps, the lion to deter wolves. You do not need endless courage, you need rehearsed enforcement. Each week, advance one move in each pillar. Add an hour to a scarce skill. Write one plain language boundary line and say it aloud to the next person who needs to hear it. Choose one proportionate consequence you will actually implement, then implement it once. Add one buffer to tame Fortuna cash, time, or a second exit path. Small strokes, repeated, build a fortress people can see. Power without violence, enforcement without drama, control without apology. People respond to edges they can see and rules they can predict. Virtù is not a costume for a season. It is the spine of a life. The world respects what it cannot easily move. Become that. Calm is your weapon. Enforcement is your proof. In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. You stop bargaining with the storm the day you recognize it lives inside you. The waves were never only waves. They were unclaimed parts of you, throwing water against the hull to be noticed. When you accept that truth, your hands return to the wheel. Peace is not luck. Peace is design. Quiet sovereignty begins with standards you can keep on your worst day. You decide the hours you sleep, the way you speak, and the limits of what you will tolerate. You stop entering every argument you are invited to. You stop apologizing for the weight of your focus. Drama thins when you no longer feed it. Decisions sharpen because options fall away. What remains is aligned with your aim. Your calendar becomes a border. Your routines become sentries. You move through rooms like a steady tide, predictable, calm, and clear. People feel it, the way you pause before you answer, the way you allow silence to work, the way you stand where the noise cannot reach. You are not colder, you are cleaner. Standards also rescue time. You answer messages after work, not during it. You meet once, decide once, and proceed. You do not chase the approval of people who cannot steer their own ship. You choose clear language, yes or no, not maybe, that mutates into chaos. You repeat promises to yourself until they become muscle memory. You learn to sit with urges that want to explode your discipline, and you watch them pass like weather. Each kept rule is another sail catching ordered wind. Quiet sovereignty anchors your mood, trims your choices, and makes space for what actually builds you. Fewer detours, fewer repairs, more movement. When standards hold, your allies change. Order is a lighthouse that speaks without sound. The ones who love fog will avoid you. The ones who crave landfall will draw near. You stop broadcasting pain to attract rescuers. You communicate outcomes, not wounds. You say, here is the course, here is the pace, here is the checkpoint. The scattered leave, the sturdy arrive. Meetings get shorter, projects finish. You begin to recognize a friendship that is not built on sympathy, but on shared direction. Respect grows without theatrics because you keep your boundaries without rage. You become easier to trust, not because you promise more, but because you promise less and deliver it exactly. Allies of outcomes bring relief you can measure. The group thread is quiet. The deadlines are visible. The air in the room is clean. Collaboration starts to feel like rowing in rhythm. No splashing, no complaint, only the clean sound of oars. You realize that hope is not a wish, but a structure. It is the sum of boundaries agreed upon in advance. It is knowing who does what and by when. It is the courage to release charming chaos makers no matter how bright their stories. You keep a small crew and pay them with clarity, and they repay you with reliability. Fewer but better ties, less drama, more distance covered. The captain returns when you stop trying to fix the weather and start reading it. You were once the person who prayed the sky would behave. Now you study the wind, note the currents, and set the sail that fits the day. Storms still gather. That is their nature, but your ship is different. The keel is deeper. The maps are marked. You have learned the difference between a squall and a season. You adjust angle, not aim. You are calm because you are competent. Serenity is not softness. It is skill felt from bow to stern. You do not plead with the water. You work with it. This is how peace is engineered. Standards that narrow chaos, allies who prefer outcomes, and a captain who reads the sea. You will still feel thunder in your ribs. You will still hear old voices calling you back to the wreck. Let them speak. Let them fade. Turn the wheel, set the trim, and move. Rooms get quieter when you bring a weathered ship through the door. Life becomes governable when you become the governor. Steady hands, clear course, no apologies.